you two do if you were Benjamin Netanyahu or Israel? If you were advising Israel and you were on Israel's side, what would you do right now?
We are on Israel's side.
No, but I mean, you have no other...
Sorry, Glenn.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you have no other concern other than Israel. What do you advise them to do?
Well, I think that Israel is coming to a point where they are left with no options whatsoever. Claire and I both spent time at the CIA. We have seen the profile on Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. We know this man is very serious about what he's saying. So,
does he believe in the 12th Imam?
He's absolutely a 12er. He believes in the 12th Imam, but he also believes what the pastor said, that the world must be in an atmosphere of bloodshed and chaos in order for the Messiah or the Mahdi to return. So he's serious about it. We both believe that he has a nuclear warhead already. I said that on your show months ago, and I got a lot of email about it, but we believe he has a warhead. Now, I mean, how long do you keep on saying, well, within another year, within another year, within another year? We've been saying that for over 5 years, within a year. I think he has a warhead, but he can't match it to a delivery system because these Jews keep messing things up for him. Scientists keep dying.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah, but I would say...
We admit nothing.
My view is that I would strike, and I would strike now.
Before the election.
I would strike before the election. He will have U.S. support, and he will have support from Barack Obama. If he waits until after the election on the chance that Obama is reelected, that support wanes. Now, what will happen? If Obama is reelected and they strike after the election, there will be a split between the U.S. Congress and the Obama administration.
Yes.
I was at the joint session of Congress last spring, spring of 2011, when Benjamin Netanyahu came and spoke. And I must tell you, Glenn, it was the most historic, most emotional event I've ever been at. As Netanyahu got 27 standing ovations. The Congress still supports him, even though the administration does not.
Okay, but would that change the outcome of our election?
Absolutely. We would re-elect Barack Obama.
It could.
They're between a rock and a hard place.
They are.
And so are we.
Well, a couple thoughts about Netanyahu asking what he should do. I think it's important to remember, I think all of us, particularly with intelligence backgrounds, believe the Israelis have better intelligence than anybody else on the subject matter.
Right.
And I would say that Netanyahu probably knows a lot more about where Iran really stands than anybody else does, particularly our own Defense Department or CIA or whatever. At the end of the day, he bears a responsibility for the safety and security of his people. And his decision has to be based on that. And he doesn't want to be remembered in history as the guy who let the Iranians do something. My goodness, if the Japanese had been talking to us and talking, if Tito had been, not Tito, excuse me, but Tojo had been talking in 39 and 40 about bombing the United States, we probably would have been prepared for Pearl Harbor and done something a little bit differently.
I think it's important to remember also, this is a very hard target for Israel. It's not a sure thing that they can, can destroy this nuclear program. It is a hard target. It's a long ways. There's a lot of targets. They're underground, and his intelligence has to be 100%. I think they can set it back, but there's no guarantee. It's not a single target like Osiris up in Iraq in 1981. This is multiple targets.
What happens to the Middle East?
Well, I mean, this is the thing. If Israel goes alone, and of course, I mean, exactly as you all say, the Israeli leadership knows what its final red lines are. We do not. And they will go when they deem it is imperative for them to go. But they must consider then, of course, the aftermath, just as you say, Glenn. And if they cannot decapitate the regime, and of course, that might not be their primary objective in any case, if the regime is left standing, the regime will unleash retaliation, massive retaliation. The Secretary General of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, is on record as saying that he will initiate retaliation independently of any orders received from the Supreme Leader, Khamenei, or not. And those units of Hezbollah, those cells, are all over the world, including the Western Hemisphere, including right here in the United States. So the aftermath is something that
But it's
has to be
Hamas, too.
considered.
Hamas will unleash a reign of terror on them as well as Hezbollah out of the Gaza Strip.
I'd say, if I could quickly, Glenn, I'm not as confident as Jerry is that this president would back the Israelis if they struck. I don't think any decisions are going to come out of this president until they've done the appropriate polling to see how it affects them in the election, however long it takes. I'm sure even at this day they've got very detailed assessments of what is going to help and what is going to hurt him with respect to getting reelected, and Israel, and strikes and what have you. And I'm not in my own mind convinced that this administration, if this administration, I thought, was really going to support Israel, they'd be a lot more proactive right now in voicing that kind of support. They'd be more proactive in undertaking clandestine or covert activities leading up to support if there was a strike, and I'm fairly confident those things aren't happening. I assume Jerry feels the same way. There's a lot of things the U.S. can do to support Israel without getting any of our people in harm's way. But I don't see any sign that we're doing any of those things.
See, decisions are taken in Israel in a very different kind of a way from here. As Pastor said earlier, to ignore the theology is making a very big mistake, because theology is not ignored in Israel. No. And so the subconscious factors...
Except in Tel Aviv, where the Jews will again ignore theology.
Well, but even in Tel Aviv, the Israeli Philharmonic Orchestra will play all music excepting one composer, and that composer is Richard Wagner. And the reason is because Richard Wagner wrote the Ring Cycle, and the Ring Cycle was Hitler's favorite piece of music. Now, why was the Ring Cycle so significant that to this day, all these years after World War II, they will not play that in Tel Aviv? And the answer is because the Ring Cycle is 15 hours of music that culminates in the fourth section called Götterdämmerung, the Twilight of the Gods. And in the Twilight of the Gods, and remember, Adolf Hitler, according to his biographers, sat through all 15 hours of the Ring Cycle at least 20 times.
I've sat through 8 once.
No, it's a phenomenal piece of music.
No, it's excruciating. Don't listen to him. It's excruciating.
No, do not miss it, because you have to know how your enemy thinks. And this is the fundamental philosophy of the Germanic people and of the Nazi people set to music. Now, it finishes off with Valhalla in flames, and there's every opportunity to salvage and save the gods, but they won't do it. We're all going to go down in flames because we can't have it our way, which is reminiscent of, you will remember, early 1942, the very first defeats the Nazi ever had in front of Stalingrad, and they begged Hitler. The army said, you've got 10,000 fat, well-fed men looking after the death camps. You've got hundreds of pieces of rolling stock. We need support. We've got to get into Stalingrad before the winter. And Hitler threw a tantrum and said, these idiots don't understand what this war is all about. We're not going to stop the death camps just so you can save Stalingrad. You're missing the point. And the key factor here is the bizarre biblical relationship between Ishmael, the father of the Arabs, and Amalek, the father, the spiritual source of Nazi Germany. And this is why the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, everybody remembers, Muhammad Amin al-Husseini, was terribly tight with Hitler. I mean, what did Hitler want with swarthy Semites? But they were unified in the one central feature, which is you have to free the world of the Jew. That is essential.
It astounds me that we don't look at the word Iran for what it is. I mean, that was the gift to Hitler. We're Aryan.
That's right.
I mean, that's crazy that we don't understand how deeply the hatred for the Jew goes when that's what they were named after. They were named after.
And that's exactly
Aryans.
why Iran has this concept that, of course, it doesn't matter. Are you telling us that we're going to destroy the whole Middle East if we let loose a bomb, but we'll also get Israel? Well, then it's a done deal. We don't care. It's Götterdämmerung, Twilight of the Gods. We don't mind what burns up. Look, we know that we could build up our economy and turn all the Arab countries around Israel into the Switzerlands of the Middle East if we had peace. That's missing the point. That's not what this is all about.
No, it's not. You might remember what the Ayatollah Khomeini himself said, which is something to the effect of, let this land burn, let this land go up in flames, I say, referring to his own country of Iran.
That's right.
if Islam can be triumphant in the world. And then you had Rafsanjani, Hashemi Akbar Ali Rafsanjani, who said that if one bomb were to be dropped on Israel, it would wipe the country out, but that if the same came to the Islamic world, there would be plenty left to fight on for Islam.
To connect what the rabbi is saying, Hitler wrote the book Mein Kampf, which means my struggle. Jihad is a word that means my struggle. Hitler's struggle was with the Jewish people. The radical Islamic struggle is with the Jewish people. Well, history proves that whenever a dictator starts talking about killing the Jewish people, pay attention. When Hitler said, I'm going to kill the Jewish people, people are saying he's having a bad day. It's not going to happen. Now, 50 million deaths later and 6 million Jews later, he was serious. Ahmadinejad is very serious. He intends to attack Israel with everything he can get for their utter destruction.
You know, you were talking before, both Rabbi and Pastor, about people not reading Scripture, not knowing what's in the Scripture. Well, the other thing that they don't read is, just as you said, Pastor, is the Islamic doctrine, the Islamic scriptures, which are the Quran, the Hadiths, the Sirah, which is the biography of Muhammad, and of course the law, Sharia. They don't read that, and if they had read the Hadiths, even just the Hadiths, they would know that in Islam it says the day of judgment will not come until the Muslim rises up and fights and kills the Jews, and the Jew will hide behind the trees and the rocks, and the trees and the rocks will cry out, and they will say, "O Muslim, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him." That is their world view, their Weltanschauung, if you want to put it that way. They believe that the day of judgment, end of times, cannot come until the Muslim world rises up to kill Jews.
About 5 years ago, I maybe longer than this, maybe 6 years ago, before Mitt Romney was running for president the first time, I looked at my producers. He was going to be on the radio with me. And I said, let's see if this guy's a governor or a potential real candidate. And I said, watch. And without any prep, nothing. He was just starting. I said, can you tell me who the 12th Imam is? Instantly knew it. Knew the relationship, knew exactly what was going on with Iran, knew why I asked the question, tied it all into Israel. There is somebody who understands it and understands it as a warning